Yay, that's me again. I love that thing. I want just like a personal version of that to just play whenever I walk into a place. Did anybody see Avi's talk about designing with sensors and things like that? Did anybody see that? Yeah. So that's what everybody should have, like an entry like that when they walk into a store and just say your name, right? Like that would be a great use for sensors, right, Avi? Personalization and everything. Okay, well, so thank you for sticking it out for the whole rest of the conference and actually coming here. I know there's food after me and Zelda, so you have further incentive, but I appreciate you coming to this session. So, totally strange talk, I know, at the end of a developer conference where you've had your brain completely infused with code and methodologies and ideas and all kinds of tech stuff, and then here we go with the not tech stuff at all, but actually important and does connect with some of the sessions that I saw today. So I want to talk about kind of my own little personal manifesto and thing that I'm putting out into the world to try to make the world better, called the Creativity Revolution, and I want to share it with y'all. So, but before I do that, I just want to say, at the risk of being an overly emotive American, I just want to be able to say, yay, wee! Okay, so, and I say that because A, we're at the end of a great day, and B, because doing the stuff that I'm talking about in this presentation has actually changed my life to a place where I am completely in love with what I'm doing, and I wake up every day excited and really happy to be able to do the work that I do. And so, I just feel like this all the time now. Or, a good solid 90%. If you're going to tweet, you can if you want. If you don't want to, that's okay. I'm Denise Jacobs. I forgot to put the hashtag in for TDConf, and it's a long hashtag for the presentation. If you want to use it, you can. You don't have to. Creativity Revolution. So, and the slides will be at this URL, bit.ly/TrondheimDC-CR. So if you want the slides later, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go scurry over to the speaker's room and upload it onto SlideShare and do the bit.ly thing. So, you guys ready? Yes. Great, so am I. So, I want to talk about some instances where one does not equal one, okay? Now, and I'm going to take you kind of through a historical journey. So let's kind of think back, way back in time. As a matter of fact, we're thinking back so far in time that we're going to go about 100,000 to 300,000 years ago. And so just imagine in your mind's eye, in the warm waters that are now called the Pacific Ocean, there was a little tiny coral polyp swimming, looking for a place to land so it could set up shop, so it could attach itself to a rock someplace and sit down and start to build its little calcium carbonate housing around itself to keep itself safe. Now, it just started with one, but eventually that coral polyp was joined by other coral polyps and ended up making a coral reef, and then the coral reef grew and grew and grew until it created the atoll that became the Galapagos Islands. And the Galapagos, many years after that one little polyp set up shop, in 1831, Charles Darwin took the HMS Beagle and sailed to the Galapagos to study the rich diversity of life that was there, and ended up taking notes and studying things, which later on, about 30 years later, created his theory of evolution. Now, I ask you, did Charles Darwin do it all by himself, or was it because that little polyp started and set up shop on that little rock that became the coral reef? I argue that it was because of the coral polyp. Now, we go farther in time. So, a little more contemporary, but still not modern time. So, on January 30th, 1962, in a village near the town of Kinshasa in what's now Tanzania, there was a little girl who just started laughing. And she was with her friends, and one of her friends just started laughing too. She couldn't help it. You know laughing is contagious, right? And then the third one started laughing. But the problem is that they couldn't stop. And they were laughing uncontrollably. And what ended up happening is that their laughter actually spread throughout the school. They had 159 students in the school, and the one girl would laugh, and the other girl would laugh, and then all 59 students were laughing uncontrollably. They couldn't start. They just started for no reason, and they couldn't stop, right? And then it got even crazier. This epidemic actually grew and spread out to 95 of those 159 students, and then went beyond and went to other villages. By the end of the time, about 5 months after that first laughing fit had started, by that time, over 217 people had these laughing attacks. And the epidemic spread and spread, affected another 48 girls. 14 schools were shut down, and 1,000 people all told were affected just by these 3 girls laughing, right? Small, but things spread. And then finally, something a lot more contemporary and in my own personal life, in 2005, I went to my very first web design conference. I had been teaching web design and web development at Seattle Central Community College in the United States, and I went to go see this conference. One of the reasons was because it was close, and another reason was because it was not expensive. And the third reason was because this woman, Molly Holzschlag, who you may have heard of, was speaking at the conference, and I was a bit of a fangirl. I had been using her books to teach from in my classes. I really admired the work that she did, and I was like, this is a great opportunity, I'm gonna go. I had a very profound experience at that conference, and what happened was I was sitting in the audience like you guys are, and I was watching Molly do her thing, and all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, wait a minute, she does what I do. I do what she does. Wait a minute, we do the same thing, and we do the same thing in a similar way. We've got a similar sense of humor, a similar delivery style. And I was like, wait a minute, I could be that. I could get on a stage, and I could speak to people too. Because frankly, as much as I loved teaching, I hated grading papers. Hated it. So I thought, hey, if I can get on a stage and I can talk to a whole bunch of people at one time, that's like the same thing, but better. No grading papers afterwards. How can I do that? I ended up talking to Molly afterwards, sat next to her at the dinner. We got to talking. The next thing you know, we were like having a great conversation. And she said, and she put her hand on my arm and she said, I totally want to stay in touch. I would love to hang out with you. And I was like, yeah, right. Like, you're like, Molly Holzschlag, come on. Really? And she said, no, seriously. She looked me in the eye and she said, seriously, I would totally like that. And I was like, she wants to hang out. That's great. I happened to be planning to move away from Seattle and move to Miami at the time, and so I knew I was going to be driving across the United States. I sent her an email and said, hey, I'm going to probably be near Tucson. And she said, well, if you're going to be in town, let's make it a proper visit, and you can just stay at my house for 2 days. What? Staying at her house for 2 days led to her telling me about South by Southwest, which also led to her saying, you should come to South by Southwest. I'll introduce you to everybody I know. Everybody she knew was all the people who I had admired and also taught from, used their blogs and everything and trying to do all this forward-thinking web standard stuff. And I was like, what? Meeting Molly changed my life. I would not be standing here on the stage talking to you today if I hadn't met her. So, is it one person? Can one person make a profound change in your life? Yes. So, now we come to the present of where we are here, all actually focusing on being connected, right? And when we come to conferences for a lot of different reasons. As a matter of fact, I'm curious as to why some of you wanted to come to this conference. So tell me why you wanted to come to this conference. Anybody? He's like, she's looking at me. Sorry, yes, I am.
Learn stuff.
Learn stuff. What else? Inspiration. What else? Oh, come on, learn stuff and inspiration, that's it? Networking. Great. Okay. Out of those three things, I would say that means that you want to change potentially the way you think, right? Inspiration, potentially. You want to change the way you work. And you want to infuse your work with a sense of meaning. That was in there. It was subtext, right? It was implied. So you come to conferences because you seek change on some levels, right? Because you think it's going to make your life better. And not only that, but you do get the networking, right? You do get the inspiration. You meet new people, you make these connections, and you get, exposed to all of these new ideas. And like ideas are firing off inside of your head a lot like fireworks, right? I'm sure somebody has dropped a few idea bombs on you today. And then not only that, but new social networks are formed, much like the way your new neurons are firing your brain, firing and wiring together, right? And you have, in a lot of ways, kind of a sense of euphoria, a sense of excitement that happens when you go to a conference. But slowly, over time, you go home, and the next thing you know, you're back at your desk, and all that excitement, and all that euphoria, and all of those ideas and everything start to fade away, right? Now, I think that there's probably, though, some kind of mechanism that we can put in place, something we can do to keep that inspiration going. How to take all of that great exhilaration, all of that energy, and how to incorporate it into our lives and take it and help us move forward. And I would say that you could do that, and you could take that energy and you can amplify it into something greater. And I think the way you can do it is by focusing on creativity. I know you're not surprised, right? Now, one thing that you may find surprising, though, is how actually important creativity is for people. There's a poll that was done by Time Magazine in the United States, and there's been several other studies. Adobe did a study called State of the Create. But this poll in Time Magazine specifically asked people what trait they valued the most in other people that they worked with. 94% said creativity, the highest out of anything. People valued creativity higher than they valued intelligence, compassion, humor, ambition, even beauty. They're like, you don't need to be cute, but you do need to be creative, right? And so that's really significant. Creativity is a very important skill to have, and it is a skill. It is not an innate talent. It is a skill, and it's something that we're all born with, and it's something that you may be rusty at it, but just like anything that has to do with skill, you can rebuild it. I think, though, that what the problem is that a lot of people, the Adobe State of the Create study said that most people don't feel like they're living up to their creative potential. Only like 25% of people actually felt like they were living up to their creative potential, and then everybody else kind of feels like there's something more that can be done. I think that by fully owning and embracing and expressing our creativity, we can leverage this skill, this talent that actually turns into a power in a lot of ways, and we can use that as an agent of transformation. We can use that to take that inspiration, right, the learning new stuff, the networking, everything. We can take that and we can take creativity and use that to move things forward. But the way we deal with creativity now, I don't think is sufficient, right? I think we need to change our relationship with creativity, and I think we can do that by starting a revolution. A creativity revolution. And therefore, I have a goal. I want to instigate a creativity revolution on both the personal and on the collective levels. Like I said, you come to these gatherings seeking something, right? I actually think that any gathering of intelligent, capable, competent people is actually a call and is actually the basis and the foundation where you can actually start a creativity revolution. So, And I also think that in some ways, on some subconscious levels, you didn't even know it, that that's kind of what you came here for in some ways. Now, before I go a little further, this begs this question. How many of y'all, and I asked this in my other session, but some of you guys weren't in there, and I can't remember everybody's face as much as I like to. How many of you guys feel like you're creative? Okay, so a little less than half. So, and I said this in the other session, and I'll say it here. Creativity, amongst other things, is about making connections and seeing patterns. And I say this to you specifically because I feel like developers are particularly adept and talented at that particular skill. So if you have that skill in spades, which I'm sure you do, then that means you've got creativity in spades as well. Now, this creativity revolution, we want to take this and we want to spread this like a contagion, much like the girls laughing uncontrollably. They started laughing uncontrollably. They didn't know who they were going to affect. They thought they were just laughing. And the next thing you know, in 5 months, 1,000 people are affected through, a good 100, 200-mile radius of the original village. So, first thing we need to do on a personal level, we want to nurture the creative spark on a personal level, and you do that by being your brilliance. On the social level, you do that by cultivating a culture of creative collaboration around you. So let's talk about this kind of like foundation of all of this. Now, Douglas said earlier this morning, which I thought was really cool, when he was talking about languages, and he said, until you really learn a language, it can't teach you. And so I want to kind of go into kind of the semantics a little bit of the words that I'm kind of tossing about so we can really understand it so that we can use that to learn from, and then we can use that to move forward. So first of all, question you might be saying, okay, so she's saying creative spark. Like, what does that mean? So I'm going to ask somebody else. What do you think it means? She's like, don't look at me. I'm already taking pictures. Okay, you did your work for today. You tweeted. Somebody give me something. Zelda, what about you?
What is the creative spark?
Yeah.
It's the moment where you get an idea and you do it.
Awesome.
Do something with it.
Great. Okay, what else? Add on to that. What else? Besides that's the time that you've got the idea. If everybody has it, what is it? What is it? Is it a feeling? Is it an essence? What do you feel like when you're feeling creative? Inspiration, right? Kind of exhilarated, kind of like this flow of energy through you. I feel like the creative spark is that kind of sense that's inside of you that everybody has to like try to bring something new into the world, right? Sometimes it's children, sometimes it's ideas, sometimes, like my father, if people were in the last session, sometimes it's airplanes. It can happen, right? Something that says, I need to make something. And everybody has that, right? So everybody has that thing that inspires you, that animates you, that pushes us to create, that compels us to bring, like I said, the ethereal into the realm of the tangible. And that's actually what kind of pushed me into being here today. I started off, like I said, as a front-end developer and web designer, but after I wrote my book, I had this major epiphany, and I was like, if I can help other people feel creative, if I can help other people get in touch with that, that's what I want to do with my time. And so that's why I actually have now founded and am the chief creativity evangelist, I like to say, of the Creative Dose, my new creativity and innovation collective. And I do this so that we can help people like you guys get back in touch with that feeling. Now, that's the creative spark. Let's talk about Betterness. Now, I have a thought leader crush. Okay, I have a few, but this one, he's like my main thought leader crush right now. This is Umar Haque, and Umar Haque is an economist, but he is like an economist that has this amazing vision, and he talks about the economy in a way that I haven't actually heard a lot of people talk about it. He talks about the economy in a way that he says, this is all well and good of what's happening, but we have to move farther. We have to go beyond this. We have to evolve evolve economically so that we're creating a world that's worth living in. And so he says that the sum total of human effort can add up to not just more, but to better. And he has coined this term called betterness. And he basically says that betterness is creating value that makes people, communities, and society as better off as possible. Now, we have been kind of trained, kind of this mass hypnosis, as I like to think of it, that we're supposed to be like trying to accumulate stuff, right? We're supposed to have a house, and we're supposed to have a car, and we're supposed to have a family, and a dog, and a this, and a that, and everything, and, you know, a certain amount of money, and then we're going to be okay. But through that, hardly anybody ever talks about trying to make things better. And I feel like, too, as people who are making what I like to call digital entities, you know, depending on whatever it is you're making, that you have the opportunity, because you make stuff that touches a lot of people's lives, you have the opportunity to actually do that, to make things better. So he's written a book called Betterness. It's a short book. You can buy it on Amazon, get it on your Kindle. It's $2.99. It's really inexpensive, but it's a great read because it's very inspiring to kind of get you in that mode of like, yeah, something can be better. There's a new paradigm that can come economically and make things better for a lot of people. And I think, okay, as people who are creative, yes, that's you, as people who create things, then why don't we try to achieve this betterness through what we do, through our really great skills of creativity. So that's betterness. And then finally, let's talk about revolution, because people are probably like, so you know you've got like parentheses in there, right? Like, was that on purpose? The annoying thing is that every time I type it in Word, it changes it to the registered trademark symbol, and then I have to go back and delete it and put the parentheses back in, whatever. But revolution does not equal revolution. It does not. So when I'm talking about revolution in parentheses, it's kind of a revolution that's an evolution. And this is why I talked about the coral reefs. That basically it's the slower progressive set of changes that develops over time and is long lasting. Much like the coral reef just sets up its little calcium carbonate house, and then another one comes, and then the next thing you know, it makes an environment where other fish can live, and other algae can live, and all of this stuff. And it's very slow, very deliberate, but creates huge change over time. And so that will, I think, help us, enable us to move to a new adaptive state where we can transform ourselves and then transforms our lives into something better. So, Now that we've got the language out of the way, let's talk about the mechanism of how this actually works. Like I said, our role model is the coral polyp. So swimming along, find a place to like land, build your house, make it good for yourself, but also make it good for other people. You build a rich environment. You also, coral polyps, like I said, build landforms. Like there are people living on the shells of thousands, millions of dead coral polyps, right? It's a big deal to set up something well for yourself in order to set it up well for other people and to help it so that everybody can flourish. There's something called tiny habits, and this is actually a practice that was started by B.J. Fogg, who studies behavioral science at Stanford, and he created a system called tiny habits. It's also very close to something that's called guided mastery. And basically, tiny habits is like this. You choose something that you want to do. You figure out a habit that you want to create. And then based on that, instead of saying, I'm going to go out and I'm going to run 5 miles in the morning. Most of the time when that happens, if you do run the 5 miles, you're pretty pissed off afterwards, right? Everything's sore, you're out of breath, you're like, whew. And then are you going to run 5 miles again tomorrow morning? No, because you're going to be sore and it's going to be horrible. However, if you say, I'm going to run for 5 minutes, like 5 minutes, or if you say, I'm going to run for a minute, that's great. So, a tiny habit, you run for a minute, after a while, you add on another minute, you add on another minute, the next thing you know, within 6 months or something like that, just like if you guys have heard of the couch to 5K, you're actually running something. It's built on tiny habits. So the structure for making a tiny habit is you anchor it to a current habit that you already have. For example, and something usually that you do frequently during the day, like peeing, for example. So if you wanted to create a tiny habit, and let's say we're creating a tiny habit around creativity, right? Around nurturing your own creative spark, then maybe you would say, after I pee, it could happen, that I write down the ideas that I woke up in the morning with. After I eat breakfast, I take a walk and I just go through ideas that I had. After I have a cup of coffee, I capture all of my visions for improvement on this project that I'm working on. Whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be a long time. If you're capturing ideas, it doesn't mean you sit down for an hour and do it. You write down whatever you got, a few minutes, and then done. But the thing is that it trains your brain to get into that mode, and you can start building up on it. 2 changes to BJ's structure, which is you say it in the positive and you say it in the present tense. So you never want to say, after I pee or whatever it is, I won't do so-and-so. That never works. Your brain doesn't work well with negatives. It only really works well with positives. So you anchor it to a current habit, and then here's the really important part. And this part, you're probably going to be like, wait, what? You have to congratulate yourself, okay? The congratulating yourself is important on a neurological level. This is not just like good, happy, feel good, oh my God, like you totally have to like, congratulate yourself and like take good care of yourself and stuff. It's not that. It is neuroscience. As a matter of fact, I couldn't find a really good brain scan of this, but there are actually brain scans. This is actually brain scan of children. On the right-hand side, on the left-hand side is a child that grew up in a supportive environment, and on the left-hand side is a child who grew up in an orphanage and didn't grow up in a supportive environment and didn't get a lot of positive strokes and things like that. And you can see that these lobes, these temporal lobes, are actually almost like emaciated, right? Not the same thing. So, now that I've said that, let's go back here to the congratulate yourself. So I want you guys to practice, okay? When you do your tiny habits, when you finally do the tiny habit, you want to make your brain addicted to doing the tiny habit. And you do that by congratulating yourself. And when you congratulate yourself, it'll get a little teeny tiny squirt of dopamine, some serotonin, and some feel-good chemicals in your brain. And it'll make it so that your brain goes, oh, every time I do that, I get this little boost. And it'll make you want to do it again. So, are you guys ready to practice? Yes. Good, because this is going to wake you up. Ready, so. Several ways you can do it. You can do, I'm awesome. You can pat yourself on the back, but I'm not going to say don't pat yourself on the back. And my personal favorite is the victory dance, okay? So let's just practice with I'm awesome, okay? So on 3, I want you guys to give it to me. Seriously. Like we got here all the way to this today right now. I want you to give it to me because your brain will like this. Okay, are you ready? On 3, I'm awesome. Whatever thing you need to do with your arms, do it. You ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm awesome. Yeah! Woo! Great, thank you. So, you do this not just because I said so, but because you want to make sure that part of your brain is lit up and that serotonin and that dopamine is flowing, so it addicts you to the habit so that you keep doing it. Every time you do your tiny habit, no matter how small it is, you congratulate yourself afterwards. Making these small, meaningful improvements actually has big results. So BJ has done this, and he has a Tiny Habits thing. If you go to tinyhabits.com, you can sign up on a list, and then you can be part of like the next iteration for the next week or something. He's done it with thousands of people, and when I say thousands, I don't mean like 2,000. I mean like 50,000, 100,000. Like, he's extremely popular in the United States, and people sign up for this stuff. And some of the things that people have said has been really neat. It's small, but each time I do my habit, I feel better about my day. I'm procrastinating less. I'm tackling large projects in small chunks. I feel now that anything is possible. And it's had a lot of impact, a large impact on these tiny habits. That's how you build habits, and that's also how you break habits. So that's part of our structure. So now, this personal, nurturing your creative spark, we've got 2 levels, like I said, personal and social. Now, here's a good question for you. I spoke at a conference last year with Dave Thomas, who's fairly well known, I think, in the software development community. And he was talking about terrorism and how terrorism works. And I thought this was fascinating, that terrorists basically leverage your fear. And once they have leveraged your fear that one time, they're done. Because you take that fear, your own fear, and then that starts working as a mechanism, and it goes and goes and goes. So think about that in terms of your own life and in terms of things that you have done or you haven't done and avoided because you were afraid of it. Not necessarily because you really knew that that was going to happen, but because you just had this fear factory going. Obsessing about bad things from happening also prevents good things from happening, and sometimes prevents anything from happening at all. So when you're being a terrorist to yourself, you're not just potentially keeping something that you're not even sure is going to be bad at bay, but you're also preventing the opportunity for amazing things to happen as well. So I say that to let you start kind of thinking about how you're going to change your habits. You're the gateway for this whole thing. Just like those girls, you can be the start of a contagion, not just in your own life, but that can affect others. And it's really about being what I call selfful. Selffulness is not selfishness. Selfishness is being focused on your well-being at the expense of others. Self-centered is focused on your well-being, kind of like indifferent or regardless of others. Selffulness is caring for your own welfare so that you are able to care for the welfare of others. Do you guys see the difference? You take care of yourself so that you can take care of other people. The way I like to actually think about this is, I call it the oxygen mask theory. And that is, and you guys all know, when you get on an airplane, if the oxygen mask comes down, what do? You put it on yourself first, and then you help other people. So when you operate from a place of taking care of yourself and basically doing things that you really enjoy doing, things that are your brilliance, essentially, right? Then you're operating from this place of love, and then you've got something else to give other people. Steve Jobs said in the Stanford commencement speech in 2005 that the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And so this selffulness is critical. It is key. And by nurturing your creative spark, by doing this, by being selfful, by doing the thing that you love, that you will be able to start to open up, and then magic happens. Selffulness starts to transform into something else. Selffulness transforms into selflessness, okay? And one of the best ways, Gretchen Rubin, who wrote the Happiness Project, is that one of the best ways to make yourself happy is to make other people happy. And one of the best ways to make other people happy is to be happy yourself. So you see how important it is to actually take care of yourself this way, to actually do work that you love so that you are actually taking care of yourself, and then you've got way more to give to other people, and then you can actually start creating something amazing. So how to do this? Recognize your brilliance. So I think of kind of craziness as when, and we've been taught to do this, right? People say, don't boast, don't brag, you don't be too proud, you have to be humble. Yeah, you have to be humble, but you know what? If you're really good at something, I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing the fact that you're good at it. If you enjoy something and you're good at it and you know that what you do can be a contribution, I don't think there's anything wrong with you saying, yeah, I'm good at doing that. I can totally help you with that. I can fix that, right? Do not focus on your weaknesses. Okay? A lot of times people are like, well, I'm not so good at so-and-so, so I'll work on that so I can get better. When you focus on your weaknesses, you actually only improve 10 to 15% according to Tom Rath, who wrote Skills Finder 2.0. You only have a small amount of improvement, whereas if you focus on something that you really like to do, you kind of a natural kind of inclination towards and everything, your capacity for getting better is like so much greater, right? So my thinking is enjoy plus good at plus feeling empowered is something that I would call empowered play, or as somebody was calling it earlier, flow, right? Being in the flow. And flow is a very special place, right? It comes from this place of having like the proper amount of arousal, the proper amount of control, skill, and everything, and that's when you get into that place and flow. So if you find that place where you're in flow, that is the key. That is how you can be your brilliance. It's all about respecting yourself. And by using tiny habits to really get into supporting that place where you're in flow, you will actually start to shift into this place where you're doing that more and more and more. You're putting your brain in a place where it's getting rewarded for it, and you'll do it more, and you'll do it better, and you'll just keep getting better at it. Now, here, a great example amongst us. You guys saw this morning up there blowing up balloons and freezing roses and strewing them all over the stage is Zelda. And Zelda, I feel like, is one of our inspirations because her background, you know, when she was younger, she didn't really think. She was like, maybe I'll be a psychologist. Maybe I'll do this other thing. Maybe I'll do this. And then when she finally got into it and started doing physics, she was like, oh, this is my jam. And then she was like, well, I really want to like share this information with people. So maybe what I'll do is I'll start like doing like scientific communication and like communicating these ideas to people. Maybe I'll be a teacher and I'll teach it to kids. And then she starts teaching it to kids, and then all of a sudden they say, she finds out that there's a call for a casting for a TV show to teach science to kids, and she was like, well, I'll apply to that. Out of 250 people, she gets chosen. And then the next thing you know, she's going around doing what she loves, being her brilliance, and blowing up balloons on the stage for you guys. What? That's crazy. So take that as inspiration. Now, there's a guy named Boone Sheridan who goes by the handle of Boonerang, and you guys are about to be Booneranged. Now, I saw Boone at a conference last year, and he was like, there are so many amazing people at this conference, so many amazing minds, so many amazing brains. He was like, if half of these people submitted papers to conferences, we would have such better conferences. They would be so amazing. You wouldn't see the same people all the time. And so, your first exercise today is I want you guys to write a talk description as if you were going to speak at a conference. And it has to be on something that is your brilliance. Whatever, and it doesn't have to be programming. Your brilliance could be, wood carving. I don't know what it is. But something, if you wanted to take that information and take that brilliance and share it with the world, I want you to act like you're going to write a talk description and submit it to a conference. It could be programming. As a matter of fact, I want you to take 3 minutes, talk to a person next to you or behind you, whatever, and I'm serious because I'm going to stop talking. And so you guys are going to have to do something, right? I want you to exchange cards with the person. Think about what it is that you want to talk about. Talk about it with a little bit, and then we're going to move on to the next thing. 3 minutes, go. By the way, this is not the time to be humble. Like, if you're brilliant at something, don't be like, oh, well, I did this little thing. You'll be like, I did this thing, I'd kill this. You have 1 minute. 1 minute left. That's good. You have 15 seconds. All right, time. Make sure that you guys exchange information with each other. I know, right? No. Exchange information with each other. If you want to talk to each other afterwards, you can keep talking and everything, but at least you got this started, right? Okay, so also I'm going to assign another thing to you, which is I want you to think of 1 to 2 tiny habits that you will do to nurture the sparks in spite of this conference. So maybe you went and you saw Harry's talk about CSS, and not refactoring CSS, but having a really great modular approach to CSS, and you're like, oh, we're going to use that in the next project. How are you going to implement that? Whatever kinds of things you've seen that really inspired you, think about how you're going to create a tiny habit, and then start building it so that you actually incorporate that into your life. I will be checking up on you. I will have the conference send an email to everyone, checking in and seeing how you did, and like giving you a little nudge to talk to your partner if you haven't, on November 27th. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to have like an automatic email sender thing, so I'm not even going to have to do it. It's like it's actually going to happen. So don't think that it's not going to happen, because it's going to happen. So November 27th, you will be hearing from me. Now, doing this first step basically is great. Find something that you're really interested in doing, pursue it, set goals, and commit yourself to excellence, says Chris Everett, the former tennis pro. So, recognizing and supporting your spark, like I said, is about you, but then it's more than just you. Your attitude is a contagion, just like those girls in Africa. They actually have done studies, I can't remember the name of the book to save my life right now, but that there's a book, it's not Spark, it's something else, that talks about what I call social contagion theory. And basically, they have proven that things will change and actually spread from you to other people, and that you have 3 degrees of influence. So that means your brother's girlfriend's friend is affected by your attitude. If you've got a crappy attitude, there's a really good chance that she'll have a crappy attitude too. And if you're happy and you're really jazzed and pumped up about what you're doing, that will go out and affect her too. And that people closer to the inside of a social cohort are affected faster, but it still spreads throughout the social cohort. And frankly, positive feelings and positive things spread faster than negative ones do. So your sphere of influence is much wider than you think it is, and just because you don't know about it doesn't mean that it's not happening. And so your change of doing that, nurturing your spark and taking care of yourself and doing what you love, being your brilliance and everything, not just affects you, but will actually spread beyond you. Now, let's talk about the social part of this. We need to get our group on, right? None of us is as smart as all of us. And creativity is something called superlinear, which means that the more people you've got, the more creativity you've got, right? It scales, and it scales in this kind of crazy way. It's not even like, 1 + 1. It is like, you get 2 people together and you could have like 1,000,000 ideas, not just, 1,000 or something like that. One of the ways that you can do that is to escape yourself. silo, okay? It's really important because it's very easy to think, okay, I'm just going to hang around like the developers of the kind of development that I do because like we know the same thing, we talk the same language and all this stuff. But the thing is that as soon as you get out of your silo, as soon as you start being around people who are thinking about different things or thinking about the same things slightly differently, then you have the opportunity to get infused with ideas that you never would have been exposed to. At MIT, back in the 40s, right after World War II was over, they had a similar thing happen, actually this amazing thing, kind of magical thing happen. There wasn't enough space at the university for all the people who needed offices. And so they had this old building that they were going to tear down at some point, and so they just started like putting different departments in there. So they were like, linguistics, you can go over to building 20. ROTC, you can go over to building 20. Research Laboratory of Electronics, Nuclear Science, you guys go over to building 20. We got space. And so they were going to tear the building down. People started knocking out walls and putting holes in the floor. The rooms weren't numbered well, so people got lost all the time. And what ended up happening is that people who were based in building 20 started being some of the most innovative people on the MIT campus. Noam Chomsky, who is very famous for a lot of his theories of linguistics, came from building 20 at that time. And he proposed that these languages have deep structure, but he got his ideas because he had been talking to people in biology, and he'd been talking to like particle physicists, and he'd been talking to the nuclear folks. Ambrose Bose, who started Bose sound electronics, was based there, and he was doing like his master's work on sound stuff. He wasn't actually really studying that. He was like just interested in doing it, and then he started doing and meeting all these other people from different places. He got inspired. He went off and started his own company. So when you escape your silo and you're around this diversity of thought, you really, really have great opportunities. When you talk to people from different venues, different places, really listen to them. Give them the kind of respect and everything that you would want yourself. You love it when people listen to you, right? And when somebody listens to you, you're just like, they're so great. And so you can do the same thing for other people. You can be like Molly, as a matter of fact. You can actually take people in, and like if you like them and if you think that they've got some kind of something, potential talent, something, take them in and help them, be a mentor to them, help them move farther into something. If Molly hadn't invited me to South by Southwest, like I said, my life would be very different right now. Another thing that you could do is that you can be the locus for people. You can be the locus of bringing people together. If you're an introvert by chance, and you're like, large groups of people, not so much. But what if you know a lot of amazing people, a lot of brilliant people? Be the person who brings those people together. I was talking to Avi, and he said, I started up a meetup for UX, and we were like, how many people we got in there? And he's like, probably about 1,500, 1,700. We were like, what? Are you kidding? That's crazy. Like UX in Tel Aviv. Like he just brought all these people together, and now he's got this rich ecosystem that he's built. Same thing like the coral polyp. So be the person who starts the process. You don't have to talk to all the people. You just have to bring them together, right? And you can start to build this environment for other people. Creativity is a social thing, right? You can do it on your own, but you can have these magic circles, these small teams of people who trust each other, are familiar with each other, and play together. I'm actually going to skip this because we're running out of time. I want to talk about improv because I want to do another exercise with you guys. So, from a neuroscience perspective, actually, improvisation has actually been shown to really amplify the idea generation process. And so, when people are in an improvised state, actually, the part of their brains that's responsible for like self-monitoring and shutting things down and everything just quiets down, and then they just start like coming up with really crazy ideas. Now, I'm going to tell you guys on some ways that you can use improv to actually help other people with their creativity and actually nurture the creativity of others. When you do improvisation, there's some things that you have to do. The first one is you always start where you are. If you're in an improv sketch, if somebody says to you, "Hit the deck, the cops are coming," then what do? You hit the deck, right? You don't go, there's no cops or anything. No. Wherever you are, that's where you are. You start with that. You accept the offer and you commit fully, right? Whatever somebody says, you go with that and you take it and you run with it. And to run with it, you use the yes and structure. So somebody says, hit the decks or cops are coming, and I'll say yes, and it would have been really helpful if you weren't wearing that like red fire engine red thing, and we had broken the window into the store and like taken all that candy. And then the next thing he says yes, and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And the last thing is that you want to make your partner look good, right? You want to make it so whatever the person suggested before that you're building on, whatever you build on with, is not to make them look stupid, not to make yourself look smarter than them, but to make them look good. Because you know what will happen? The person who says the thing after you will make you look good. And the person that says something after that will make that person look good. And then it just builds and builds and builds. Now, play has been shown with creativity to be a really important part of how we invent and experiment. So, let's play. I need 6 people to come up on stage with me. 6 people. Don't be shy. Come on. Chop, chop. Come on up. Just come up. Or I'll just point you. I'll just point at you and I'll just make you come up. Okay. He's like, don't look at me. I'm looking at you right there. Quit hiding. Come up. Get to you. Up. And let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many have I got? Have I got 6? Great. She's like, oh, I got like a whole bunch of people. Okay, great. Now, I want to have you guys, let's see, how many folks we got? 5, 6, 6, great, perfect. So, I want you guys to make a sentence, okay? Each person is going to say one word. So, and you could do it in any order you want, it doesn't matter. You just, like, whatever the person says before you, then you say a word and you just add on a word until you make a sentence. And when you say your word, you step forward, okay? He was like, okay.
I want to have fun.
Just one word.
With you.
Yay! Okay. Now, same thing, whatever order it's happening, except this time, I want you to think of your word, but know that you're setting up the next person for an easy next word. Do you know what I'm saying? So whatever word you choose, make it so that it's an easy word for people. Don't just use like and the, blah, 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 but make it an easy word. Set it up so that it makes it easy for the next person, and also that the sentence like does something. Okay? But make it easy for the next person. He's like, oh my God. Okay. Whoever. You. Uh-huh.
Should.
Uh-huh.
Out. Out. With. This show.
Yay! Excellent. Thank you. So did you kind of feel a difference between the first sentence and the second sentence? A little bit? Yeah? A little bit. Thank you, you guys. They did great. The crew, yes! So what happens, and that was actually an improv exercise, just in case you didn't know. So what happens is when you have this intention of setting things up for other people, it changes the dynamic, it changes the way things work. And what it ends up doing is it builds trust. So people know that you've got their back. They know that whatever idea that they have, it's going to be okay. And whatever you've got, like I said, you start with where you are. If the idea isn't all that great, that's okay. You can build on it. How many of you times have you guys been in meetings where you had an idea, but you were so afraid that somebody was going to try to make you look stupid over it that you didn't share it? I've done it a lot of times, right? And then you don't share the idea. That idea could have been the best idea in the whole lot, right? That idea could have been the idea, that could have been the foundation for something else, like some amazing improvement, some amazing, part of an application that never saw the light because you were like, I know it's not going to be supported, but if you do this, you will come up with even better ideas. And that collaborations will get increasingly stronger and will actually get better. Now, just in case you guys think that I'm talking about this just because I talk about things. I'm actually talking about this because I took an improvisation class this summer. It was amazing. It was 7 weeks. And at the end, we actually ended up doing a show that was open for the public. And we had an amazing time. My favorite person in the class was my friend Eric, when it was Eric with a K at the end, so go figure. And he was great because he was crazy, he was zany, and whatever he started with, I knew it was going to be great, and I trusted him implicitly, and I loved doing scenes with him. So, last piece of homework, which I'm going to check in with you guys not in a month, but in 2 months. Think of 1 to 2 tiny habits that you can do to cultivate a culture of creativity around you. And the check-in date for that, I'll go back. He was like, I'm trying to take a picture of that. You can take a picture of it. The check-in date for that is December 27th. Now, Charles Darwin, who we talked about at the very beginning, said, in the long history of humankind, those who learn to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. So you can be part of that evolution, right? So, now we're here at the end. Viva la revolution, and creative power to the people, okay? Umar says that betterness can't happen if you're spending your life churning out toxic junk, right? It can only happen where more meaningful work is done. And it kind of relates to what Douglas was saying earlier, my favorite quote of his whole presentation, where he said that, people who use classes will die, go to their graves not knowing how miserable they've been. So I urge you to start using your creativity and start using it, doing that selffulness, taking care of yourself, using that to make things better, spread beyond yourself, right? Because you don't want to go to your graves not knowing how miserable you've been your whole life. You want to go to your grave feeling like you did something. That personal sense of fulfillment, that pride that you have in your work, that will actually, like I said, has really far-reaching ramifications. And not only that, but your team and your company will actually benefit from it, and that you can push them to create betterness. And also another thing Douglas said is that your team, if you're doing open source especially, your team is potentially every programmer in the world. So you have this kind of duty to create something wonderful, to create good code, to write things, to focus on the good parts, and to do something wonderful with the world. Like I said, it's bigger than just yourself. It's about you and others, and it's about contributing to what is called eudaimonia, or human flourishing. Right? Happiness is not just a mood, it's actually a work ethic. It's the precursor to success. So at the close of the Trondheim Developers Conference, creativity starts here with you. You can take the spark and you can take it and you can move forward and you can take it home with you and have it spread. You can encourage the ecosystem around you, and you can remember that we create better together when we're connected, and we can evolve creatively to this kind of wiser, truer, more disruptive, powerful, and challenging form of creativity. And that you can also choose to not be a terrorist to yourself, right? And to instead be a revolutionary. Douglas said this morning that everything we do should be in service to humanity. And I think that we can do that by being the change that we want to see in the world. And that's by being the creativity revolution that we want to see in the world. So, thank you. So a couple of things. I actually have a website up on Creativity Revolution, and if you want to join in and find out more things as I get the movement going, you can go and you can sign up there. Again, if you want the slides, that's where the slides will be within probably an hour or two. If you want to get in touch with me, that's how you can get in touch with me. And If you want to do work with my company and have me come and do some innovation training and communication, team cohesion and all that stuff, that's also how you can find me. So thank you. You guys were great.